So-and-so's friend, a girl in her teens, is babysitting for a family in Newport Beach, California. The family is wealthy and has a very large house, you know the sort, with a ridiculous amount of rooms. Anyways, the parents are going out for a late dinner movie. The father tells the babysitter that once that the children are in bed, she should go into this specific room and watch TV there. He really doesn't want her wandering around the house. The parents take off, and soon she gets the kids into bed and goes to the room to watch TV. She tries watching TV, but she is disturbed by a clown statue in the corner of the room. She tries to ignore it for as long as possible, but it starts freaking her out so much that she can't handle it. She resorts to calling the father and asks, "Hey, the kids are in bed, but is it okay if I switch rooms? This clown statue is really creeping me out." The father says seriously, "Get the kids, go next door and call 911. The girl asks, "What's going on?" He responds, "Just go next door, and once you call the police, call me back." She gets the kids, goes next door, and calls the police. When the police are on the way, she calls the father back and asks, "So, really, what's going on?" He responds with, "We don't have a clown statue." He then further explains that the children have been complaining about a clown watching them as they sleep. He and his wife had just blown it off, assuming that they were having nightmares. The police arrive and apprehend the clown, who turns out to be a midget. A midget clown. I guess he was some homeless person dressed as a clown, who somehow got into the house and had been living there for several weeks. He would come into the kids' room at night and watch them while they slept. As the house was so large, he was able to avoid detection, surviving off their food. He had been in the TV room right before the babysitter came in to watch TV. When she entered, he didn't have enough time to hide, so he just froze in place and pretended to be a statue. One night, a woman went out for drinks with her girlfriends. She left the bar fairly late at night, got in her car, and onto the deserted highway. After a few minutes, she noticed a lone pair of headlights in her rear-view mirror, approaching at a pace just slightly quicker than hers. As the car pulled up behind her, she glanced and saw the turn signal on. The car was going to pass, but suddenly, it swerved back behind her, pulled up dangerously close to her tailgate, and the brights flashed. Now she was getting nervous. The lights dimmed for a moment, and then the brights came back on, and the car behind her surged forward. The frightened woman struggled to keep her eyes on the road and fought the urge to look at the car behind her. Finally, her exit approached, but the car continued to follow, flashing the bright lights periodically. Through every stoplight and turn, it followed her until she pulled into her driveway. She figured her only hope was to make a mad dash into her house and call the police. As she flew from the car, so did the driver of the car behind her, and he screamed, "Lock the door and call the police! Call 911! When the police arrived, the horrible truth was finally revealed to the woman. The man in the car had been trying to save her life. As he pulled up behind her and his headlights illuminated her car, he saw the silhouette of a man with a butcher knife rising up from the back seat to stab her, so he flashed his brights, and the figure crouched back down. The moral of the story? Always check the back seat." They say that the Llorona was once a poor young girl who loved a rich nobleman, and together they had 3 children. The girl wished to marry the nobleman, but he refused her. He told her that he might have considered marrying her if she had not borne the 3 out of wedlock children, which he considered a disgrace. The girl was determined to have the nobleman for her own, so she drowned her children to prove her love to him. But still, he would have none of her and married another. Mad with grief, the girl walked along the river, weeping and calling for her children, but they were gone, so she drowned herself. For her crime, her spirit was condemned to wander the waterways, weeping and searching for her children until the end of time. It was said that whenever the willing woman appears, someone will die. Now I have heard that one night, 2 young men were carpooling home from work with the windows down when they heard a terrible wail. It sounded like the desperate cry of a baby or perhaps an injured tomcat. Beside the road, a white mist began to gather. It moved swiftly among a group of palm trees, and when it reached the largest tree, it became the figure of a lovely young girl dressed all in white. Long dark hair hung loose down her back. She began to weep and wring her hands in agony, and the men realized that they were seeing the ghost of the Llorona. The driver gunged the engine and they drove away as fast as they could. The glowing figure of the Llorona remained visible in the rearview mirror until the car turned the corner. The men were upset by the vision, afraid that the rumors about the Llorona might be true. But nothing happened to either of them the rest of the night, so they laughed away the incident, deciding that they had imagined the whole thing. The next night, the men were riding home from work when their front tire burst at the place on the road where they had seen the ghost the previous night. The car spun out of control and hit the largest tree in the palm group in the exact place where the Llorona had appeared to them. Both men were killed instantly. I believe we're all born with the basic sense of good and evil. What drives us to go in either direction is the influence of outside forces, some more powerful than others. A couple of years ago, while I was living in Mendocino, California, I had just dropped off my younger sister at karate practice. It was later on the evening, the moment where the sun just starts to set and the sky ignites in purple and golden colors. It seemed like a nice night for it, so I decided to go on a short drive while my sister finished her class. I knew the county fairly well, but decided to drive down some back roads I didn't recognize. I figured, why not, right? After a while, on this one particular road, I started to notice that I could no longer spot any houses or other cars. It seemed that the road was getting thinner and thinner as I rolled along. I decided to turn around, and as I came to a slow, my radio suddenly cut out. Strange. That never happened before. I started fiddling with the dials, but all I could get out of it was silence. This is when I started to feel creeped out and decided to make a U-turn. As I stopped my car, I jumped at the sight of a mysterious figure standing in the middle of the road. The man was enormously tall and had the longest limbs I've ever seen. His arms were almost like tentacles, absent of any bone. He was wearing a black suit and tie, and as I looked up, I became horrified to learn that his face had no features. No nose, no mouth, no eyes, just a complete void. I couldn't put the car into drive, I was so shocked. Just at the moment, a voice entered my head of a man whispering. It told me to run my car into the man and kill him. It repeated the words, kill him, over and over again. All the while, the man just stood facing in my direction. All at once, I screamed and slammed my foot down on the gas. I ignored the call of the voice and sped off in the opposite direction, eventually making my way back into town. A week later, I opened the newspaper to learn that a car had went off-road near the area where the incident happened to me. The passenger in the car died on impact. I'm convinced that the tall man had accomplished his goal, and convinced that driver to go off the side of the road and wind up with the fate that could have happened to me.